Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Jian Sangachian, welcome to the Breakfast Show from London studio. As I always say, I hope this is Chaddi Kala de vich and have had a good week. So आज the Jeda program हैगा. We have a very exciting program to bring you today. Every week we try to bring very inspirational Jeda guests हैगे who are doing some great work, whether it's in the community or whether they're doing it within the organisation that they're in. So आज the Jeda guest हैगे, we have Optimum Thinking with us, who are in the studio to talk about stress resilience. Hopefully for anybody that may be going for a stressful time in their life, or anybody that maybe isn't even stressed but just gets that slight bit of stress, as we always do. We're here to speak to them to find out how we can obviously not stress ourselves out, and we're going to be talking about a few other things as well. So let me go over and introduce them, and hopefully this will be a very educational and inspirational show for you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome. Thank you so much after us trying to organise this for quite a while now and me having to change the date. But thank you so much for joining us on the Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
If I could just start really with a brief introduction on yourselves, your name, education, and what you do and how long you've been doing this for.
Sure. Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Manmeet Kaur Chaudhary, and I have been doing Optimum Thinking kind of skills for nearly about 10 years, I'd say, after studying human behaviour.
Okay.
My background is, study-wise, I've done business management at university, and I did a career in sales since I was about 16 years old.
Okay.
So when I was in sales, I was pretty much like top saleswoman, number one saleswoman, and I started to get really good results for the companies I was working with. And then, there was a time that my sales just dropped.
Okay.
And, I started to go, well, what's going on here? But when I started to see what was happening, it was actually, I was having a lot of emotional stuff to deal with.
Right.
And that was in my personal life. Mm-hmm. So as that started to happen, I was like, I need to understand a little bit about what is this thing called life? How do you deal with emotions? Yeah. How do you manage this? And so that's when I started to study human behavior and started to apply some of the principles we're going to share with you today. And here we are today.
Very interesting. It's just interesting from listening to that, because I'd like to delve into that a bit later if we get time, but thank you. Yeah. And Helen, if you could just give us a bit of an introduction.
Sure. I'm Helen Kemp. I live in Brisbane, Australia, so I'm really honoured to be on the show and to be in London. Find it very inspiring. My background's in education. First of all, the first half of my career was in the teaching field, and then the second half in organisational development. Mm-hmm. And as I look back, I realise I've always studied human behaviour. I was a visual arts teacher originally, so 13-year-olds with clay in their hands. I realised I was sort of interested in human behaviour to kind of keep that under control. But as I moved into leadership positions in organisations, I realised that organisations are all about the people, and really wanted to work out how to create more harmonious environments for people to work in, where they could have a more fulfilling career as well. And the work that we've studied in common has actually enabled that, but it also has a big spin-off in our families as well. So, and I'm very inspired to have come to London and partnered with Manmeet.
And how's your trip been so far in London?
Hectic, really. We've run a series of workshops and we've done a series of interviews. We've run public workshops and workshops in organisations, as well as some private coaching sessions with one-on-one as well. So it's been really busy. I haven't done any sightseeing this time around, it's such inspiring work. I don't feel as I missed out, so I'd rather work with the people.
Well, can I just say you have an absolutely amazing accent, so it's nice for us in the UK to hear the accent. Exactly, because
I thought you had the accent.
No, do you know what, that's the thing, everybody says that to us, and I'm just like, no, it's so dull. Seriously, you have such a nice accent. So you know what? So nice to obviously have you here in London in this cold weather that we have here. But you'll probably be going back to some really nice, lovely, warm weather.
Super hot.
Yeah, super hot. Okay, we won't go into the weather. Actually, I'll get upset when I talk about this. Exactly. But, I guess I'd just like to know. So I noticed that you call yourselves coaches, but what is the difference between coaching and counselling or therapy? Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So the difference is we call ourselves coaches because we're not, the work we do isn't in traditional university systems. So we've actually gone outside of the traditional system to learn our skill set, and we never say to our clients that we replace traditional therapy. So if someone's seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counsellor of any sort, we always say to them, continue with that and get their permission if you want to do any optimum thinking work as well, because we certainly don't push any of those medical boundaries. We're not qualified in that area, and we just like people to know that up front as well.
And then what different situations do you provide coaching on then? If you could talk me through some of the...
The general scenario of what we coach on is to get people back into a position of empowerment. So when people are doing stress, it's usually because they have a sense of being disempowered somehow. So, and we'll talk about stress in a little more detail, obviously, but it's that sense of that. So it can be anything from a stress where things feel out of control in the family or work, in relationships. Also, it can be any kind of loss you might have experienced, like perhaps you've been made redundant, or you may have had a breakup in a marriage, something like that. So it's a wide variety of areas, but the common thread is really about helping people regain their sense of self-leadership and self-governance, and get their stress level back into a manageable state.
Do you ever get a time where you've had somebody who has a particular case study and is really stressed, and by the situation that they've come to you, do you ever go back feeling stressed about it? How do you actually deal with the different case studies that you get? Because just listening to you now, I'm thinking actually you deal with stress resilience, and that's a big thing. A lot of people probably come with different scenarios. How do you deal with it? And that's probably open to both of you, but
I mean, you might deal with it differently, but I think we kind of deal with it very similarly because of the work we've done, obviously, on ourselves. We're able to see the perfection of what's actually happening. I know, like a lot of this is already in Sikhi. We say that "Jovi onda chevaste onda," and sometimes we question that. But if it's that kind of certainty that we hold, knowing that we can help someone, so we don't actually get emotionally attached to the problem, because we know that we are able to help them with the specific tools to get out of that, and actually see whatever they're experiencing is more like on the way and not in the way. And then you're able to actually, Helen, talks about this, like the state of gratitude, that you can actually help people get to, where in that moment you don't want anything to be different, and you just see it as perfect. That's really when you have that, connection with, we say Vaheguru di Mera, that kind of Mera that we have. That's when you don't want the actual anything to be different. Right. So, but it's the certainty that we hold when we're coaching, knowing that there is an absolute perfection in everything that we've experienced, and that experiences are just experiences, neither good or bad. They're just, experiences that is actually what we're learning from them. That's the key thing. Yes. That helps us actually coach. Is there anything you'd like to add?
And Helen, what about yourself?
Probably the only extra bit I would add is from a little bit of neuroscience, just from the point of view of we see our job as working with clients and we're co-creating with them. So we don't think that we're fixing them because we don't think they're broken. They've just got unresourceful thinking. So our job is always just to help them shift their thinking to create new awarenesses. So therefore we don't need to get as emotionally involved with them, and that it's actually our job to keep our prefrontal cortex, which is like our executive centre, online. When our clients may be in a very distressed state and they're emotionally upset, we kind of have to let them borrow our executive centre to help them process, so to keep in a very present state with them.
So, in a way, I guess, Manmeet, this might be maybe a bit something that you could maybe answer just from the aspect of Sikhi, we say about attachment, we shouldn't be attached to anything. In a way, is that, I guess what I'm trying to ask is that not the therapy, is that the solution that you try to give about attachment? Is it about not being attached?
It's a little bit, it's not like not being attached totally.
Okay.
It's actually like you're getting to a state of when you're just grateful.
Okay.
And when you're grateful, you can see how everything has served.
Yeah,
and then you're almost not attached to which way it should go.
Right.
Because in the moment that you're attached to a certain thing being a certain way, you're questioning the work of God.
True.
Right? The God, universe, whatever we want to call it. Okay. So it's actually a questioning process that we help people see, that when you look at both sides of something, then you're able to get to that moment of actually, the way it went, I won, and it's there's nothing to change there. So there is that moment that you get to non-attachment once you balance your perceptions.
Yes,
that's the key thing here. It's about balancing them.
Thank you. We have our first caller calling in, so take our call. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Hello. Hi. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Deepa.
Oh, hi Deepa. Thank you for calling. Do you have a question, or is it a case study that you're going to be sharing with us today?
It's really just sharing my experience that I've had with Optimum Thinking and now meeting Helen, yeah.
Yes, please. Do share that with us.
So I attended the foundation course a few weeks ago and then just completed the advanced course yesterday. Optimum Thinking and Demartini's work is something that I've been interested in for a very long time. I actually bit the bullet and did the course, and it was just an absolutely amazing experience. I just feel like it's helped me enrich so many areas of my life. I think one of the biggest thing I got from it was just the massive improvement I've seen in the relationship between me and my 7-year-old.
Right, okay.
So, you know, you can just imagine typical boy, 7-year-old,
yes,
pushing my buttons constantly.
Yeah.
And I was having a real big power struggle with him. And I didn't quite realise how bad it had got, but realised that I was really emotionally tormenting myself about it all. And what the course did and what the girls made me see is just true clarity really around that area. And although outwardly nothing's changed, I can see internally I've just got this like level of peace with the whole situation, and I just see, you know, my boy's perfect as he is, and what I'm doing is perfectly right for him as well, and it's just that emotional charge around it's gone. And it's just been fantastic. I'd recommend it to every parent out there, to be honest. I'm really quite excited to see how this will play out in my children's lives going forward as well.
You know what, that's amazing, because I was just actually going to ask you what would be your message to the viewers that are watching, but you've just answered that to say that you'd recommend it. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for your call.
Thanks,
Thank
Deepa.
Thanks, Deepa. Thank you. Oh, that's really good to hear, actually.
Yeah, it just gives us a bit of tears of inspiration when we're able to kind of help, you know, people like that, and you know, it's very inspiring.
Yeah, no, it is. So, you know, Sangaji, on that note, you know, we will be giving you more details of where you can go if to see on there to find out a bit more, but we'll be bringing you the details later on as we have so much to get through. So that leads on to my next question. So, you know, I noticed you call your business Optimum Thinking. Is that just like positive thinking, or is it something else?
So many years ago, like you know, I was into this whole positive thinking movement. You might still be, you know. So we're going to kind of tell you a little bit about that. So you'd agree, like, you know, positive thinking. If we just kind of visually take it, that it's up here, it's about being positive. Is that something you can maintain all the time?
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah. So I went through that kind of like trying to be positive, and all this negative stuff, as I said, was still happening, and I just, you know, didn't know how to deal with it. So to answer your question about why we've called the company Optimum Thinking is, we see that positive thinking is, you know, lets you know what you do want in life.
Right, okay.
But you also need negative thinking. A lot of people go around trying to get rid of the negative thinking.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah, okay.
So this would be good for me.
So the best way, when you actually see positive thinking tells you what you do want, negative thinking lets you know what you don't want.
True. Yeah.
And when you bring those actually together, you start to see how both thinkings, that in the positive and negative thinking, allows you to move forward in life. So you've got what you do want, what you don't want, and you bring that together, and that's kind of what a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah.
Some people talk about balance, you know. Sikhi talks about balance as well, which is, you know, one of the religions that talks quite a lot about it. But it, you know, sometimes we actually say, yes, it's great to be balanced, but even balance, like that straight line the whole time, is not actually obtainable. You'll have moments of perceptions that are balanced.
Right.
But the thing is, what happens when I was growing up, people would like, okay, they'd talk about balance, but nobody actually showed you how to get there, or how do you access those moments of balance.
Yeah.
So we've decided to call it Optimum Thinking for that very reason, so that this is what we see as a way of thinking, a movement moving forward that can help you integrate both and understand why they're both needed.
Because for me, so Optimum Thinking, and not now because you've explained it, but, and I know there's another question that I have off the back of that one, but Optimum Thinking for me means straight away I have the word positive thinking straight away, as I was saying to you just before the show, that optimism and positive, I'd put it together, but I always think of it, it's even now, even me saying Optimum Thinking, I'm thinking of positive thinking. So I guess I want to kind of delve into that a little bit more. You know, you're saying the positive and the negative, you need them both together.
Yes.
Could you, is there maybe a story or something you can share as an example of how does it work together? And I guess, if you start here, what's the end result? What can you achieve by them two working together? Just so that our viewers can understand, but also just from this perspective of me sitting here to understand it a bit more.
Sure. So I'd give an example here of a client that I worked with who was 8 years old. So when we say they're working together, what we're saying is that when we have any reaction to something, we've made a judgment about something, we've made either a positive or a negative reaction to it. So if we've made a positive one, it's now out of balance because it's actually an infatuated result or an infatuated judgment. So we're going to use negative to bring that back down to balance. And if we've made, a positive, we're going to say, how did it not help me to bring us back down? So we're going to use negative thinking to bring it to here. If it's a negative, a perceived negative, we're going to use positive thinking to bring it back up to balance. But we're not making a negative positive or a positive negative. And there is no, one of our biggest challenges in our language, we don't have this middle language. So we're saying optimum for you at that moment in time. So the example I'd share as a short case study is the little 8-year-old boy. His mum brought him to me because I'd done some work with her and said, I'm not sure if you can help him, he's so young. I said, I'll give it a go. And he was really quite scared of going to school because the boys at school were throwing sticks at him, and they were the big boys, so they were a little bit older than he was. And he said, they do it round the back where the teachers never come. And so I said in a much longer session than this, but it was basically, I said to him, so imagine God was helping you and the boys were actually your agents of the universe helping you in some way. What could be the good thing about having sticks thrown at you? And he said, stupid woman, there can't be anything good about that kind of thing. You just saw the look on his face. And I said, well, just imagine there was. And he thought about it for a while, and then he said, it makes me really good at dodgeball. Because he loved playing dodgeball, so he could see that positive about it. And I said, that's excellent. I said, what else could it be? And he thought about it a little longer, and he loves football. And he said, it makes me really good at dodging around the other players to play football or soccer. And I said, that's great. What else could it be? And then he thought a little longer, and he said, I get really good at finding the best place to throw myself on the ground. And I thought, that's interesting. I'm not sure what that's about. And I said, that's really cool. I said, how does that help you? And he thought about it a little longer, and then he came back with, when we go camping and we go bushwalking, I am really good at scanning the path, and I can spot snakes, so I can keep my little brother and sister safe.
So he really looked into the detail.
So we push it through until they get enough value so they can see at that time it actually served me. And then he dissolved the charge, like the emotional reaction to what was going on, and he got back into action and went back to school quite comfortably.
That's really interesting, because it just makes you think of things that you normally wouldn't. Because you wouldn't normally think of them. Exactly. So that is really interesting.
It's really key. And what Helen's saying is, although she's using the words good, because with an 8-year-old you have to say what was good in that, so that they start. Because if you start using words like what was the benefit in that to an 8-year-old, they might not start to process. But all you're doing is actually bringing that perceived negative back into, you're already aware of what the negatives are, so you're just stacking all the benefits until you can actually go, okay, that was just an experience, there wasn't any good or bad in that.
And that's really good, like you said. I really like the way that you've said there wasn't any good or bad in that, because that's what we tend to do as normal human beings. We always tend to look at, this is really good for us and this is really bad. Like we put them into two piles, don't we? The good pile and the bad pile. And then sometimes we'll look at the bad things, which sometimes they're not bad, and actually they're fine, but it's good because you really look at the details. So I like that. So thank you for sharing that with me. So why is optimum thinking better than focusing on, we've got a call now actually, so I'll come back to this question. So we've got a second caller now, so we'll come back to that. Waigu ka kātsa, waigu ki whate. Hello, hi Chris.
How are you doing?
Hi. Are you calling for sharing a case study, or have you got a question?
I've been doing some work with Manmeet and Helen over the past month or so, I'm happy to share some of my experiences working with them and how they've found beneficial.
Yes, please, if you could share them.
Right now?
Yes, Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, yep.
Sounds like we've got the perfect phone for.
Yes, so please share your case study. It'd be interesting to hear.
Okay, so let me just put So one of the key points that I've taken away from working with Optimum Thinking is actually understanding how my team works around me.
Okay.
So in the past, I've found working with certain people, it can be quite frustrating because they don't work at the same speed as me, or we just have very, very different learning styles. And since working with Matt, Meet and Helen, I've understood more that every team needs every style.
Yes.
So the person who's really, really detailed and checks every clause in a contract is very, very, very important. And just because I'm a million miles an hour, it doesn't make any one person more important, because without the detailed person, things could go wrong. So it's really allowed me to understand and given me patience, really, and sort of a newfound appreciation for other people in my team. Another byproduct of actually doing the work with them recently is it sort of brought up a couple of things for me of where I need to improve in life, in my business life specifically. I've always sort of prided myself on being a big blue sky thinker.
Chris, sorry, there's a lot of interference in the line. Sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah, we're going to have to, sorry, we're going to have to cut the call because there's a lot of interference.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is that any better?
No, it's not clear, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, Sangaji, your line, Sadi Sigi, there was a little bit of interference, so we've had a bit of technical difficulty there. Sorry about that, but maybe Manmeet, you might be able to emphasise on that a little bit.
Yeah,
sorry, there's a lot of interference.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with Chris now for a while. We worked with his team. Mm-hmm. He's actually a very successful property developer and has a property investment kind of company. And the key things that he was kind of saying, what we did with the organisation and some of the key people, from top down, was actually something we call the master key with Optimum Thinking. And the master key is all about finding out what's most important to your employees. Okay. And this is not just for employees, this is for everyone. Okay, so like in your own family, in my family, in relationships, because we're in a relationship with everyone, be it friends or intimate or, work colleagues, we're in that relationship. So this master key is something we actually have a process that is, allows us to see what's most important to someone, right down to what's least important to someone. And that goes hand in hand with something could be really important to someone, and they also a different type of, like, as Chris was saying, somebody could be quite detailed. So it's actually finding out, what kind of an energy somebody prefers to work in, and along with what's most important. So this helps you basically in a work situation to make sure somebody's working in the right position. Yes. And then the key thing that we found, is that any emotional, blockages that people have or barriers going on, as I was saying, when I was working in sales, it had nothing to do with me not knowing how to sell. So if anybody at work has got anything going on outside, be it, relationship issues or sometimes even losing a loved one, we don't know how to deal with that. These things are going to play on in our mind. Yes. And when they're playing on our mind, nobody can say leave your stuff at the door. Everything comes to work with us. So he had his team work with us, and we were able to help them neutralize some emotions they had. And then as soon as they did that, they were, as Helen's used the words before, back from reaction into action. And that actually helped Chris's company in terms of increasing productivity. Amazing. And when you increase productivity, that for the company owners, you're going to increase their profitability as well. So, the income. That's amazing. So we've got a couple of minutes before break, but just really quickly, so touching on that as well. So going forward now, how has it been for Chris and the company, and has he shared this experience with other companies, and are you going to be going forward and dealing with other companies and doing the same thing with them? Yeah, I mean, we're looking to work with other companies as well. We want to get what we see as a vision for Optimum Thinking as well, as Optimum Thinking into organizations, so that in a workplace, there's a different type of conversation. There isn't the kitsch kind of, conflict happening. And when that happens, what do you do about it? Do you carry it on for days and months, and then eventually getting to, actually, I want to leave my job? So, Chris, being lovely. He's just recommended us.
We've got 1 minute, sorry, to break, but we're not going yet.
Yeah, he's recommended us, so we are working with him and other companies as well. So absolutely, we're happy to work with any other kind of companies. Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you. Sorry, I've got Uncle in the earpiece, so we're going to be going for break. So we will be back after the break, where we've got lots of other questions as well, and a couple more case studies, I think, that you're going to share with us. So, Sangat, we're going to be going for a short break. Please do stay with us. Stay tuned. As we have Helen and Manmeet here with us, who will be joining us after the break as well. So we've got a full hour with them. Join us after the break. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back, Sangat Ji, after the break. As so most of you that obviously have seen the first half, you'll know that we have Optimum Thinking with us here in the studio. For those of you that have just joined us, we have some very amazing guests with us here by the organisation of the name of Optimum Thinking. I see Ona Dina Galla Bata Kanya, and they're going to be here with us for the full hour. So if you have missed it, we will try to get you the YouTube link afterwards, which means that you can watch it in your own time. But before, obviously, I go on to leading on to my next question, I'd like to ask you on the thought of the day, because normally on the breakfast show, I always have a thought of the day that I usually bring in. But sometimes I like to ask the guests to bring something in. So I know that you've brought something in with you today. If you'd like to share that,
I'd love to share. It's a quote my dad actually came up to me the other day, and he says, Manmeet, he goes, "Main te optimum thinking badi der da kar raha," you know. And he said, there's a quote by Shakespeare.
Okay.
And he said, "Nothing is either good or bad, it's just our thinking that makes it so."
That's very good and very deep as well.
And my dad's 86 years old.
Oh, so you know, Uncle G, amazing thought of the day. Thank you that you shared that with Manmeet, who shared that now with all our Seek Channel viewers. Thank you. So hopefully we can actually walk on that and try to take that in. So nothing is good or bad. It's just our thinking that makes it so. That's true, actually. The mind, like they say, the mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy, right? So anyway, so I'd like to, I guess, my next question really would be in terms of what is the best way to stop feeling down? Because that's something that you deal with as well, correct? Yeah. If you could tell me a little bit about that.
I kind of just before the break, I was talking about understanding what people's priorities are. So once you start to know what's really important to yourself, so that relationship with yourself, see, we tend to kind of maybe feel down because we're not living by what's most important to us.
Yeah,
and when we're not living by that, it's one of few things. It's either we're thinking we should be like someone, or we're basically thinking that actually, somebody should be like us, and we start feeling down that they're not living according to what we think they should be. So that's why we call it the master key, because that's really something that's operating us on a very subconscious level. And that is really where we're making decisions from, where we're deciding whether we're going to be happy or sad. Because if we are living by our highest priorities, we're going to embrace both kind of sides of a negative and a positive, like challenge and support together. And if, for example, if I came on him and I said, "You're an amazing presenter. You do an amazing job. You're going to open up to me because this is one of your highest priorities. You're going to naturally feel drawn to talking to me." You're not going to really feel down when I make comments like that, are you?
No, that's true. So it's really in a way it's like complimenting somebody. You're giving them that positive, I guess. Am I correct in understanding it in that way, in that sense?
I mean, I'm kind of like esteeming something that's really important to you. That's where you're getting your self-esteem from, because people want to be esteemed in what's highest in their priorities, because what they do is they set themselves a challenge and then they actually achieve it, and then they want esteem for it. Okay, so then we're going, okay, but if you start to feel down, the kind of advice I would give to the viewers is, I would check in, are you actually living by what's really important to you? Because as Helen said, these 3.5 weeks that she's been here, we have been absolutely flat out. But did you ever feel down?
No. Tired, but not down.
Really?
Tired is different to down, because we're so inspired by what we're doing. We're embracing both support and challenge. Don't be under the illusion that these 3.5 weeks have just been amazing, inspiring, just support. But it's been inspiring with both support and challenge along the way.
But then, do you ever feel down? Have you ever had a situation where you do feel down? There's got to be times where, or talk
Yeah.
to me about whether you don't. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you don't, that's amazing.
Oh no,
Okay.
I do. I'm human.
Absolutely.
You're human.
Yeah.
So you do. So what do you do at that point when you are feeling a bit down?
Yeah, it's not about, like, we're not trying to get rid of feeling down.
Okay.
You see, when you recognize it, you have a
Yes.
couple of questions to ask yourself, right? It's again, when you're feeling down, it's when you're seeing something as negative, you're
Yes.
perceiving it as negative, you're seeing it as one-sided. So remember, Helen said we start to ask what are the benefits to bring you back into optimum thinking, but we make a decision like, how long do I want to stay in this position?
Yeah.
How long do I want to kind of, we call it in optimum thinking, play a pity party, to think that actually, you know, things aren't going well, and do you want to actually move into a moment of actually appreciating how life is?
Okay.
So I would add to that,
Yep.
it's, if someone's doing a pity party,
Yes.
what we always suggest them is like, spend some time, look at all the areas of your life and start listing what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
So it can be one of the best ways to actually pull yourself back up out of that sort of low, feeling low. And just as you keep going around until you can just see how much support you've got, that can actually help you get out of it. In fact, we recommend that people do, we call them their gratitudes every night before they go to bed. And the second part is to set priorities for yourself, because if you're not setting priorities and taking action on your highest individual priorities that you're chasing,
Yes.
well, then you may be feeling down because you feel like your life's about helping someone else rather than actually achieving what you want.
Okay. Well, we have Daniel on the call now,
excellent.
waiting.
Oh, lovely.
Daniel, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, okay.
Hi. I understand that you've worked with Manmeet, or had some work that you've done with her. And was there a challenge or something that you faced that you'd like to share?
Yeah, when I was 18, I lost my mother. It was under quite tough circumstances at the time. It was with my stepfather.
Right.
Murdered her and he went to prison. And I carried her out that around for 10 years really before I met Manmeet. I was really struggling with it. And I couldn't really see past the date of his release from my life. I couldn't see the positives in what had come of that. So I did some work with Manmeet, and within the space of 3 or 4 hours we managed to basically see the positive that had come in my life since that point, and basically just worked through it together.
That's brilliant. And since then, have you been able to share that with friends and family to make them aware that this is the work that they do?
Yeah, I have no problem with that now. There's no like emotional charge to what happened really, you know, like it was before. So I have no problem sharing with people what happened and talking through it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing that with us.
No problem.
And thank you for your call.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Daniel.
Oh, that's amazing, because grief, I mean, if we could quickly just touch on that, but that's obviously a big thing that people find very difficult to deal with. And to hear that somebody's actually dealt with it and now is able to talk about it, is there anything more you'd like to say about this?
It was just very inspiring working with Daniel. I mean, he comes from a background of no, kind of personal development, and didn't know anything about any kind of way that thinking can actually help. But as he said, we have a very unique grief process that we use, and I'd like to take the opportunity to acknowledge Dr. John D. Martini, who's our mentor, teacher and colleague, who also is a human behaviour specialist, and he has come up with this very unique procedure, that process that allows people to basically go through grief and actually see how it served them as well, and let go of years of grief sometimes. Do you want to share the story about you working with the lady who was holding on to the grief for like 60 years?
Wow, 60 years.
So she'd lost her mother when she was 3.5 years old, and we took her through the process, and it was the first time in all of those 60 years she could talk about her mother without actually crying.
Really?
So she was holding on to that like emotional, we call them emotional charges in our system. And it just sort of eats away at you if you don't actually deal with it, because in modern society it's, don't show your feelings, suck it up princess, or sort of stuff it down kind of thing. So bringing those emotions to the surface and and then we call it equilibrating it so it's balanced, it means you don't have to think about it anymore. And it's not to be disrespectful to the person who's passed. It actually opens your heart to them.
Yes.
Because you're not resenting them for leaving anymore.
Yeah.
So it actually balances that. And as Mamie said, Dr. John DiMartini will go down in history for that process. So it's a very, very powerful process.
So there is ways to deal with grief, really.
Yes.
Yeah, the process is very easy. But I'll be honest, the principles itself is actually in Sikhi.
Okay, talk to us about that.
Yeah, you know, we say, you know, energy is never destroyed, it's only transformed. And in Sikhi we say we have the physical being, and, you know, we have the Atma, which is the soul, and once the Atma is connected with Paramatma, the only thing that's changing is the physical form, but the soul stays, the Atma's here. So this process allows you to have a questioning process to see, well, how is that transformed? How is the Atma still here? And how can I still see the person that I'm perceived to be missing actually still here? So it's a very unique process, but as I said, a lot of the principles are already in Sikhi, but no one teaches us how do we get to those. Or some people, you know, maybe we just need to expand on how to get there, so we just feel that this is a way to get people through that.
And do you, talking about the Sikhi side of it, do you ever get people that do come who might just question their faith a little bit and find that they can understand it a little bit through the principles of what you teach? Have you ever had that, where somebody's a bit confused with, oh, but my faith tells me this, and now, you know, Optimum thinking is teaching me this? Is there anything you could share on that side?
Yeah, I mean, I myself have gone through two different types of journey with Sikhi. Like, I've gone and studied human behavior, and then I've come back to go, okay, well, where is this in Sikhi? And actually, not just in Sikhi, I've looked at a lot of the other religions too, and I can just see, like, that there's a pattern there, that, you know, if you really go back to the interpretations of what's meant to be, they're just there. So I don't feel like science and religion are two different things. I feel they come hand in hand, but it's just a matter of how people interpret them. So they're definitely there, the principles, you know, but as I said, I don't see them as separate. And we do have sometimes people, it does challenge some of their paradigms. But, you know, like I've worked with a very highly Islamic person as well, and just actually relating to what's written in the Quran. You know, they've just gone, oh yeah, I get it. So it's just, if you're able to relate to somebody and what's important to them, you'll be able to help them.
Yeah, great, thank you. We have Chris calling back now. Yes. Hi, Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Hello, sorry about that. We had interference on the line.
That's all right.
Sorry. So if you want to share your case study with us again, please, because it was so interesting, and then the interference came in, as it does.
Did you lose me?
Well, do you know what? It's actually not very clear even from the beginning, wasn't it? So if you want to start from the beginning, it'd be great for our viewers.
Okay. Let me cast my mind back. Okay, so yeah, some of the things that I've taken away from working with Optimum Thinking, they've helped me understand other key members of my team better. You know, sometimes I've struggled in the past with people who don't have the same style as me, the same style of learning or the same style of working. And it was a bit of a light bulb moment, because a team needs every position. It's like a football team. You can't all be strikers, can you?
Yeah, true.
So that was really, really helpful for me. One of the really interesting things, I took some of my team down to Optimum Thinking Foundation workshop a couple of weeks ago, and obviously a lady who I've worked with for years and years, but I really didn't understand what was important to her, which was crazy really. I had an idea, but when we was looking at people's helps, you know, what's important to them in life, it made the training made things really simple to understand, really easy to grasp, and I've just got a much deeper understanding of what makes it tick. And the benefit for me is, if I know what she wants, and I can show her that she can have what she wants quicker by obviously us working together closer as a team, and being respectful of each other's highest priorities,
That's really good. So Chris, would you share your experience with other people and optimum thinking to others?
Sorry.
Would you share your experience with others, and obviously recommend people in similar situations to optimum thinking as well, for them to get in touch with?
I think it's for anyone. I mean, it's been great on a business level. It's allowed me to, understand people on a deeper level. It's helped me personally as well. Because,
Brilliant.
We all have things that crop up in life that we need to deal with, and when we deal with a certain issue, something else is going to pop up. That's just all about being human. And the ladies give you the tools to really look at the things that perhaps are holding you back. Because if something's holding you back in your head,
yes,
you can bet your bottom dollar on it. It's also holding you back out of your head as well. You can't hide from people if you've got stuff going on. I think it's quite apparent to the outside world.
Thank you for your call, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Very welcome. They are two very special ladies.
Oh, thank you so much.
Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, girls. See you soon. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. So that was Chris's experience. Amazing. We've had some really amazing case studies. Callers calling in with case studies. So I guess the next thing I'd like to ask you, and this is so true actually, just in general, I've heard this so many times from people, how come when I go home feeling really positive because I have had a super successful day, that my husband or wife seems to bring me down with criticism?
Want me to take that one?
Yeah, I've done a lot.
So it's interesting because when we were talking about the middle space, that there's kind of a lack of language. We have a lot of polarization in our language because we tend to think good, bad. We also found that there's a concept of where we get a little bit puffed up and full of ourselves, and so we call that the overdog position, where you kind of think you're better than other people and you project your priorities onto other people. And then there's the opposite of that, which is the underdog, which you kind of look up to people and you want to be like them, so you try to put their priorities and inject them into yourself. So we actually invented a third position because we couldn't find one in the language, which is called Optimum Dog, which sits in the middle as well, so we had to invent one for that one.
Okay.
So when we come home and we're all full of ourselves and we have a really puffed up kind of day, we say that your partner is the agent of the universe to bring you back to balance, so that you can actually get out of reaction again and out of being full of yourself and get back into achieving more in your life. And similarly, have you noticed that if you come home really kind of down, that they'll automatically be the one to try and boost you back up and get you out of underdog position? So sometimes we just focus on the fact they bring us down and we don't realise how often they bring us up.
That's true.
So the person's going to be, we call them double agents, so they're going to do both for you. So relationships are about keeping you in that humbly empowered space in the middle, rather than in either the overdog or the underdog reaction space, because in the middle you can actually open your heart, have better communication and achieve more. So they're going to do it. So people just have the unrealistic expectation that when there's a ring on the finger, it's all about support.
Right.
They don't realise that true love is about both challenge and support to help you grow.
And have you ever had any a married couple come to you with, the verge of, actually we're at the verge of, we're at each other's necks, and I think Helen, what I'm going to ask, and they've come to you and basically they've taken on board what they've learned from Optimum Thinking, they've gone back, implied that within their marriage, and actually things have got better?
Absolutely.
You have had that?
Yeah, regularly.
Really? Regularly?
Yes.
Yeah.
So amazing.
I had one client, a couple, fly from another city to work with me all weekend because they were looking at divorcing, and that was about 3 years ago. They're still together. So it's about a new language and a new way to understand emotional reaction, so that you can actually understand each other a lot more by understanding each other's priorities. And then we have a series of process we take people through to get really clear on how they're serving each other in the relationship. However, I'd also say that we're not attached to whether they stay together or not, because our intention is always to help them get what's best for them. So what we do is, if they do choose to separate, it's always a far more calm, balanced and appreciative separation of each other if that relationship no longer serves them. So it's a completely different way once you're choosing to separate, when you're already emotionally balanced and appreciative of your partner. And it's just that at this point in time, that relationship doesn't serve us anymore. So we're, as I said, we're not attached you know, you said before about attachment.
Yeah.
So we can't be attached, otherwise we're projecting onto them what we think should happen.
Yes.
Whereas ultimately they need to do what's best for them.
Amazing. Very good to hear.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one thing. You know, when Helen was talking about the question you asked was specifically for husband and wife. Well, if you're like me and you come home and you don't have a husband or wife, but you've got parents,
yes,
they're there as double agents as well.
Yeah, that's true actually.
You know, it's very much there about if you get really like, you know, puffed up and think you've done an amazing job. I sometimes can actually, you know, do that in the office and go, oh yeah, that was a really good job. Yeah, I did, you know. But before I actually go out into the main, you know, living room from the office, I will ask, who did I not serve today? Who was I not able to get in contact with? So I bring myself down into equilibrium before somebody else has to bring me down. Before somebody does,
that's good.
So it's a very like a key process that you can go, well, where did I not show up? Who did I not serve? But yeah, I just want to let everybody know that our parents do the same. You know, they
or
serve
our siblings.
Or our siblings.
Exactly.
Everybody's just serving us to bring us back into balance as well.
Yeah, amazing. So stress is my next topic that, you know, would like to know a lot more about, because all of us, I mean, probably not yourselves, you don't look stressed at all, but someone like myself who gets stressed out very easily. What is stress and what causes it, and what to do to develop stress resilience?
There's about 3/4 questions in that one.
I'll let you start. I'll take over if we need to. That's fine.
So you said we don't look stressed. So
I'm sorry, and we've got about 5 minutes left.
Oh, we've got 5 minutes to answer stress.
That's why I put them all in one.
All right. So very quickly, there are a few different types of stress, and you know, you have something called eustress.
Okay.
And eustress is really when you're living by your highest priorities. Remember earlier I said you'll embrace both support and challenge.
Yes.
That's the kind of stress you need to grow. So what we, you know, when I was saying we're inspired, we've been, you know, having all the support and challenge, and we've just been going forward. We've been with eustress, and that's where we actually grow, the border of support and challenge. When we go typically one way or the other, it becomes distress, okay? And normally the two forms of stress we have is if we don't want to lose something that we infatuate with, that's a form of stress. So we don't want to lose something that's quite important to us. The other form of stress is we don't want to gain something we don't like. So we don't want that thing to come into our life because we don't like it. So we tend to do, you know, distress when those kind of perceptions come in. Again, the optimum thinking questions can help you come back into eustress as well.
Thank you. And then the other thing was, how come stress seems to sneak up on us and we don't notice it until it gets really bad?
Mostly because we have such busy lives, and I think a lot of the sciences have pulled human beings to pieces. So you go somewhere for, say, counselling for your mind, but if you need your eyes fixed, you go to the optometrist or the doctor for all the different ailments. So this work's about putting the two back together. So the mind-body connection is really important. So we encourage our clients to always tune into the body, because the physiology is actually giving you the feedback you need to actually take a bit of a time out and think differently. So it's your feedback system, and typically if it's stress we'd call it negative feedback, to again let you know what you don't want, but to take the time out to see what your priorities are so you can actually get back on track. So it actually serves us, but we're just so busy we don't take that time out to actually feel the reaction in our body. So it's about putting us back together.
I've got a couple of minutes left. How do we, and I want to actually obviously end it on this because this is going to be one of the biggest questions, as our viewers are watching and going to be thinking, "Asi stress kitna kar sakte hain?" So that basically what I'm trying to say is, how can we get rid of stress in our lives?
Well, you can't. It's about how you manage stress. Okay, the way you can manage stress is by implementing optimum thinking skills, and you can learn the optimum thinking skills through coaching or our workshops.
And if you could just give your contact details actually of where our viewers can go if they want any more information or want to get in contact with yourselves.
Yeah, we have a website. It's www.optimumthinking.net. And we have, as you know, Australia, you've got an Australian office and a UK office. So I head the UK office, and Helen heads the Australian one. You can go in and actually register your interest, just fill out a form, and that will basically keep them updated with all the next workshops that we'll be doing in the UK and Australia.
Thank you so much.
We also do work with clients all over the world because we work on Skype, so we have clients internationally.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you both on.
Thank you for having us, Marie.
No worries.
Really
Hopefully we'll have you on again in the future and we can talk about your upcoming projects and things like that. Sorry, time went so quickly, but thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
So Sangaji, I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that it's helped you to actually work out how we can get rid of stress in our lives, as we are always stressed. I know I always get stressed. So sorry to my mum and dad, as I always do get stressed out, but I hope that you enjoyed it. Please check out Optimum Thinking. And if मैं तो कोई गलतियां भी हुई, please मैंने माफ करियो, पुल्ला चक्कर दी माफी। वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह।